Hey everybody, it's Radishearts, and today I'm going to be talking about some of my old OCs while I draw them for Art Fight. So these particular OCs come from a story called Chaos Magic, and Chaos Magic is a story about the magic in chaos, unsurprisingly. So the magic in chaos is a very natural thing. It's literally drawn from the energy within the earth. So chaos is physically hard, and the ground holds a lot of energy that passes through natural beings, plants, animals, and anything that is formed naturally. People are also included in this, and they aren't harmed by this energy. However, man-made things can combust into flames without the right protection spells. People also have the ability to harness this energy into fire magic, which once again cannot harm the natural and can only be used while touching the earth or another living thing with energy flowing within it. So let's just jump right into the speed paints. Apologies for any jumpiness. I realized halfway through drawing them that I had drawn on the original canvases, so I had to cut the speed paints in half. So when I'm talking about designing a character, I kind of like to consider three main things. Number one is their personality, and that affects kind of how I'm gonna pose them, how they wear their clothes and stuff, how they style their hair, just kind of how they carry themselves as a person. The second thing I like to consider is sort of their cultural background, their family background, who has come before them, how they were raised, etc., etc. Because I feel like that also ties in especially to how they dress themselves as well, how they carry themselves. And it also can give you, if you're like me and have no idea how to style characters, it can give you sort of insight into what cultural clothing or motifs you could put in their designs to make it more interesting. And the third thing is just a silly little thing for myself. I like to include like a sort of joking part of their outfit. It can be something really tiny, but just something that makes me laugh when I think about it or when I'm drawing it. So for Kehi Aka, a main thing about her is she's pretty ambitious as a character and very confident, very outgoing. One of her favorite pastimes is to stand in the middle of town and just talk about her stories that she's writing. She'll talk to anyone who will listen, which usually includes her best friend Arlen and her family, but occasionally there'll be a gossiping auntie or two or a straggling kid. From that, she hopes to be able to improve her craft in writing stories and eventually be published in her dad's library. I think that confidence to be able to stand up can also be translated to a sort of nonchalantness. She doesn't really care that much about what people think about her. So when it comes to her appearance and how she dresses herself, although her school uniform isn't messy by any means, it's not like she's taking such a care that everything is prim and proper and precise. She's also wearing a jacket over her uniform, a green jacket, which is definitely against school policy, but she doesn't really care too much, and she's more about expressing her individuality as a person. So Kehi is Polynesian, and she's wearing a lava lava, which is a wraparound skirt. It's also called a sarong, if that's more familiar to you. And I think by including that, it allowed me to consider a world-building aspect, which is how uniform policy affects at their school. And now it's just any type of red bottom that they can wear to school, which I think can be really insightful in how you build the characters and the story around it. By including those cultural elements, I got to explore a bit of the world I'm building for these characters. Easter eggs are kind of mostly just for me. Over time, some of them have developed into world building, and I think that's important while you're character designing, is to question everything that you're putting down. 6 months ago, she was wearing a cream hoodie over top of her uniform, and it didn't have a zipper on it, and even just something as small as that, it just didn't look right. So by experimenting and finally giving her a zipper and changing the color, I think she looks more cohesive as a character. Next up we have Arlen Ayame, and Arlen is sort of a foil to Kehi as a character. When I write characters, I like to have them in pairs of sorts. So whatever traits Kehi has, Arlen kind of mirrors them and reflects them in a different perspective. And I think that's pretty evident in both their backstories and their personality traits. Start off, Arlen is definitely more reserved than Kehi. He's also very much more analytically minded, where Kehi's more creative. Arlen is more interested in learning about the facts of nature and the world. Arlen's dream is to one day become a star charter and chart the stars of chaos and be able to learn all that nerdy sciencey stuff. But Kehi and Arlen are opposites in terms of the color spectrum. Through home life, Arlen's parents are both doctors, so he doesn't really spend a lot of time at home because that's where their clinic is. Instead, he spends a lot of time with Kehi and the Aka-Akas. He'll have dinner with them and stuff like that, and then walk home and bring dinner home to his parents. Arlen spends most of his time in his school uniform. Another cute little tidbit about his character design is that under his eye he has like a little symbol on it, and that is directly plagiarized, like shamelessly, from a few characters in Demon Slayer, and I kind of just yoinked that because I thought it looked cool. And over time it's developed, it now represents the constellation of chaos, and he kind of has that like drawn on with eyeliner. A little bit of a contrast to the way he carries himself normally. So Lani Akea Aka-Aka is next on the list, and Lani Akea was put into the story because I needed Kehi to have a sibling. A little brother, I think, was perfect to fill this void. He's very much matches the chaotic energy of Kehi, but even to a further extent, as little siblings do. So Lani wants to be an inventor when he grows up. He wants to be an engineer like his mother, and to pursue that dream right now, he loves making silly little gadgets, and one of his pet projects at the moment is modifying his wheelchair to be able to go at breakneck speeds down the hills of the town which they live in. And Lani is known for doing stupid stuff like this and just having as much fun as he can, and I think that sense of immaturity and childishness can be reflected in Kehi, but to more of an extent in Lani, as he is younger than the main cast, and so that childishness is more inherent to him and isn't blocked by understanding things like safety and wearing helmets. So Lani's design as a whole is very plain, and I think that can be conveyed, that conveys his like youth as a person. He doesn't know who he is, and that's not necessarily a bad thing to not know at 13. He's quite young and impressionable, and most of his outfit is reflective of the people around him. Kwonjang is kind of the role model. It's a really bad way to describe her, but she's definitely got a whole lot of tenacity, and she's got a whole lot of willpower. She wants to prove herself, but the problem about proving herself is she doesn't really know who she is. She's got that whole struggle going on with defining that. I mean, she's in her coming of age. She's 18, and she's showing up in the real world and understanding the struggles of society. She doesn't have that direct support system that Kehi and Lani and Friedrich, who I'll mention in a second, do have. She's sort of like Arlen in that sense, but it's also a little different just because of her relationship to the family. She kind of has a similar arc to Lani, coming to find her own and make her own decisions. So she has quite a plain outfit, just a hanbok of a simple yellow and orangey red kind of tones. And And then in the midst of that, she has a little blue pendant. And if you can see on her cheeks as well, she has these little blue dots, which are actually dragon scales, because not to spoil kind of half the plot, but Kwon does make a deal with a witch and turns into a dragon. And over time, I think I've come to realize that Kwon is more mature than I first made her out to be, but less mature than I was going to aim for. She's just she's what it's like to be a late teenager graduating high school, and she has no idea what she wants to do. So Friedrich is Kei and Lani's older brother. He was adopted into their family kind of right after Lani was born, and he adores them and they adore him as well. They definitely look up to him as this big brother who's taking on the world before them, and he is a pretty good example of what to do and also of what not to do. He's at the same age as Kwon, and they've both just graduated high school and realizing the world they're coming into isn't as idyllic as they'd like it to be. Friedrich is definitely somewhat more of an idealist. He knows what he wants, but at the same time he's very much a pushover, so despite him knowing what he wants, he doesn't really commit to anything to get him there. And what he wants is basically to be a grandpa. I think I've conveyed that a lot in his outfit. He's got the sweater and the comfy pants and a long sleeve shirt. He just wants a nice home life, I think, and he'd also follow Kwon to the ends of the earth, and that's what friendship is about.
So, not last, but second last, we have Victoria Nikias, and she is a princess, both literally and figuratively, in a good way and a bad way. Victoria is, I guess, what you would call very sheltered. As she develops throughout the story, she becomes more aware of her surroundings, in her position in society. For Victoria's inspiration for outfits, I was definitely, of course, inspired by Grecian traditional clothing, and that sort of structure within the outfit is very beautiful, just the threading, and unfortunately most of the art I do for these characters, it has to be simplified for my sanity. Victoria is definitely inspired, especially in her posing in this one, with fairy tales like Sleeping Beauty, Aurora, Cinderella and Snow White, just how poised they are as characters. And I would not say Victoria is at all like in the character personality-esque like princesses like that, but she definitely pretends to be. A lot of her life has been quite isolated. She holds her books quite dearly to herself, and especially her library. It's her only connection to the outside world other than her new friend Margot. The main colors in her outfit are right now purple, blue, and white, and they each have their color symbolisms, but generally purple represents royalty and blue represents her individuality. And as the series progresses, I hope to have her adorn more periwinkle clothes and then step into her own sort of blue colors that represent her. So last and maybe least, I don't know, I have some varying opinions on Marcus Durate. So Marcus is, or Marco is how I usually call him, is kind of like the charmer of the series. He's like a bard of sorts, and that expresses itself in a multitude of ways. Marco was actually originally a part of the main duo with Arlen and Kei, but his story has evolved from there on, and he's kind of taken up a new position. Marco has managed to charm literally every single person I ask into being their favorite character of the series. I have no idea why. There's nothing much about him, to be clear. He has memory loss. He doesn't have a backstory that's evident to anyone but me, and yet somehow he manages to capture everyone's hearts. He's like the accidental heartthrob of the series, even though he really does nothing. He's an awful singer, he's tone deaf, but he has like a little ukulele I like to think he carries around quite often. But his main role in society right now is being a protector of the princess of Chaos, which is Victoria, and he slowly becomes her friend and introduces her to life outside the palace walls while still being in the palace walls. And I guess he tries to open her up to experiences that are different than her own, and all the while he's sort of grappling with the fact that he doesn't remember anything from his past, and he's slowly trying to push those pieces together. His character design, I definitely wanted to have that nonchalant look in him, but he's also, of course, in uniform as well, which is a weird parallel to Kehi and Arlen, I guess you could say. He's got the white, which is a royal color, and the purple, which is also a royal color, but instead of wearing some sort of more structured garment, he has a little poncho, and it has some embroidery on it and a little sash from Victoria. He's also definitely has a polarizing opinion on Kehi's shoes. He is definitely a sandals type of person, or jandals as they call it here. And yeah, that's Marco. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it about up. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to hear any suggestions on the story itself, the characters, so who's your favorite, anything like that, or even just any suggestions on what content you'd like to see from me in the future. I'll see you next video. Bye!